woman enters a restaurant trying to hide the shame she's carried for days. The hunger is real, the exhaustion too. But her hope? That was hanging by a thread. When the bill arrives and she realizes she can't pay, the nightmare begins. Voices rise. Judgmental stares strike mercilessly, and she's escorted to the door like a criminal. At that moment, she's certain she's hit rock bottom, and even God has abandoned her. But what she didn't know was that there, sitting in a forgotten corner of the restaurant, was a simple man who had remained invisible all night. And when everyone turned their backs, he did the unthinkable. What began as the greatest humiliation of her life transformed into the exact moment God chose to change everything. You won't believe how this story of shame, compassion, and true love ends. Sarah was 32 years old, with once well-groomed brown hair now tied in a simple ponytail, and green eyes that held a weariness that went far beyond the physical. It was late October in Portland, Oregon, and the light rain falling that Thursday night seemed to perfectly match her mood. She walked into the Maple Street Diner around 8:30 p.m. It wasn't a fancy place, far from it. It was the kind of neighborhood diner with worn red leather benches, the smell of coffee brewed hours ago, and a neon sign outside flashing "Open" with the EE, half faded. But even though it was simple, for Sarah at that moment, it was almost a luxury. It had been 4 days since she lost her job at the laundromat. 4 days since the manager said they needed to cut costs, and that she, being the last one hired, would be the first to go. Just like that. No warning. No second chance. Sarah had left with a cardboard box containing a mug she had brought from home and a scarf she had forgotten in the closet. That was all. The rent for the tiny apartment where she lived with her 6-year-old daughter, Emma, was overdue. The refrigerator contained half a bottle of milk, 2 eggs, and a piece of cheese that was already beginning to harden at the edges. She had managed to leave Emma at the house of her neighbor, Donna Martha, a 70-year-old lady who had always been kind and who had offered the girl a plate of pasta without asking too many questions. Sarah hadn't eaten properly for 2 days. She'd saved what little she had for Emma. But that night, after walking all over town handing out resumes that no one seemed interested in looking at, she felt like she was going to faint. The dizziness came on strong as she passed the Maple Street Diner, and something inside her said, "Go in, eat something. You need to." She had $18.43 in her wallet. She had counted it 3 times before leaving home. It was all she had left until something happened. Some miracle. Some response from one of the 15 companies where she had left her resume that week. Sarah chose a table in the corner, near the window. She wanted to be somewhat hidden, you know. She didn't want to draw attention. She picked up the laminated menu that was between the salt and pepper shakers and started looking for the cheapest thing she could find. Soup of the day, $6.95. Toast, $1.50. Coffee, $2. Good evening, dear. What would you like? The waitress was a woman in her 50s, with bleached blonde hair, red lipstick, and a name tag that read, Brenda. She had that tired but friendly air of someone who has worked with the public for decades. I'll have the soup of the day and a coffee, please," said Sarah, trying to smile. "Anything else? We have fresh apple pie." "No, thank you. That's all." Brenda wrote it down in her notepad and left. Sarah stood looking out the window, watching people hurry past on the wet sidewalk. Umbrellas open. Lives moving on. She wondered when the last time her own life had truly moved forward was. 3 years ago, her husband, Jason, had left. He simply packed his things and left, saying he wasn't ready to be a father, that he needed space, that things had become too complicated. Sarah was left alone with Emma, who was only 3 years old at the time. She struggled. She worked 2 jobs for a while, then got the job at the laundromat that paid a little better and allowed her to work 1 shift. But now everything was falling apart again. The soup arrived steaming, smelling of chicken and vegetables, and Sarah felt her stomach rumble. She picked up the spoon and began to eat slowly, trying to make it last, trying to savor each bite as if it were the most important thing in her life at that moment. And it was. The coffee was hot and bitter, just the way she liked it. For a few minutes, young Sarah managed to forget. She forgot about the bills. She forgot about the despair. She forgot the shame she felt for not being able to give her daughter the life she deserved. She didn't even notice that there, on the other side of the room, sitting alone on a stool by the counter, was a man. He was black, probably in his early 40s, wearing a somewhat old gray wool hat, a worn navy blue nylon jacket, and had a face that looked like it had lived a lot. His name was Marcus, but nobody in the restaurant knew it. He was practically invisible to most people. Marcus had been there since 6 in the afternoon. He had ordered a coffee and a slice of cake and had been waiting for hours. Every now and then, Brenda would come and refill his cup without charging him. She knew Marcus was homeless, but he had always been polite, never caused any trouble. So she let him stay. Marcus had a story. Everyone has one, right? But his was one of those that we prefer not to hear because it hurts too much. He had been an Iraq War veteran, returned with post-traumatic stress disorder, couldn't hold down a job. His family distanced themselves, and little by little he slipped until he ended up on the streets of Portland. For 3 years he had slept in shelters when he could get a spot, or under awnings when he couldn't. But Marcus had one thing that the streets hadn't been able to take away from him: faith. He talked to God every day, sometimes out loud, which made people think he was crazy, but he didn't care. God was the only constant friend he had. That night, Marcus was praying softly, giving thanks for the pie and the coffee, asking for protection from the cold night ahead. When he glanced at the corner of the restaurant and saw Sarah, he saw the way she ate too slowly, as if she wished the meal would never end. He saw the way she gazed out the window with that lost look, and something inside him said, "Keep an eye on her." Marcus didn't know why, but he obeyed. He watched discreetly while pretending to read an old newspaper that someone had left on the counter. Sarah finished her soup. She took the last sip of her coffee. He felt the time had come. The time to pay and leave before the embarrassment became too much. She waved to Brenda, who came with the bill on a crumpled yellow note. $8.95, dear. Sarah opened her wallet. She took out the $18. She was going to give a $10 bill and a $5 bill, receive the change, and that's when she saw it. The money wasn't there. Sarah felt her heart race. She rummaged through her wallet again. Nothing. She unzipped the other compartment. Nothing. She turned her bag upside down on the table. Crumpled tissues, an old lipstick, coins fell out. She began counting the coins with trembling hands. $1.20, $2, $2.65. Everything all right, dear? Brenda asked, and there was a hint of impatience in her voice now. I had the money. I swear. I counted it before leaving home. Sarah felt tears burning in her eyes. What had happened? Where was the money? Had it fallen in the street? Had someone stolen it while she was distracted? Could it be? Miss, are you going to pay or not? Brenda now had her arms crossed. Please, I had the money. I don't know what happened. I can wash dishes, I can clean something, Her voice faltered. Tears began to fall. Some people in the restaurant started staring. A white-haired lady who was having dinner with her husband whispered something and shook her head disapprovingly. A young couple looked and then went back to their cell phones. Indifferent. Brenda, call Tony. Someone shouted from the kitchen. We have one who doesn't want to pay. Sarah felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. This couldn't be happening. It couldn't. A large man, around 50 years old, wearing a white apron stained with grease, emerged from the kitchen. This was Tony, the owner of the place. He had a red face and an expression that showed no patience for drama. What's the problem here? She says she doesn't have the money to pay the bill, Brenda explained. But I had it, Sarah practically shouted, her voice choked with emotion. I swear I had it. I don't know what happened. Please, I can come back tomorrow. I can bring the money. It's always the same story, Tony said wearily. Everyone had money. Look, miss, I have a business to run here. Either you pay or I call the police. Simple as that. The entire restaurant was staring now. Sarah felt each pair of eyes like a stab. The shame was so intense, so suffocating that she could barely breathe. "Please," she whispered, but even she couldn't hear her own voice. "Brenda, call the police," Tony said, turning his back. It was at that moment that Marcus stood up from the bar stool. He walked slowly to Sarah's table, and everyone looked at him with that mixture of curiosity and disdain. A homeless man. A nobody. What was he going to do? Marcus stopped beside Sarah, looked at Tony, and said in a calm but firm voice, "How much is her bill?" Tony frowned. $8.95. Why? Marcus reached into the pocket of his worn coat. He pulled out a handful of coins and some crumpled bills. He began counting them right there in front of everyone. It was the money he had earned throughout the day begging. Every penny had been hard-earned. Each coin represented hours of humiliation, of hearing no's, of being ignored, of being insulted. Marcus counted slowly. $5 in bills, $3.75 in coins, one more dollar, 50 cents, $9.25. He placed the money on the table in front of Tony. "It's paid for," Marcus said simply. The restaurant fell silent. Sarah looked up at the man beside her and couldn't say anything. Tears streamed down her face now. But they were different tears. It wasn't just shame. It was something else. It was a disbelief. It was that kind of emotion you feel when the whole world turns its back on you. But a single, unexpected person extends a hand. Tony took the money, counted it, and muttered, "Okay, it's paid." He went back to the kitchen without saying anything else. And gradually people went back to eating, talking, and getting on with their lives as if nothing had happened. But for Sarah, everything had changed. She wiped away her tears with the back of her hand and looked at Marcus, who was already turning to go back to the counter. "Wait," she said, her voice still trembling. "Please, wait." Marcus stopped and looked at her. He had deep brown eyes, the kind that had seen a lot but still held kindness. "Thank you," Sarah said, and the words seemed so small compared to what she was feeling. I don't know how to thank you. I'll pay you back, I promise, as soon as I get a job. No need," Marcus said softly, shaking his head. "God put you in front of me today. I only did what he told me to." Sarah blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" Marcus gave a tired half smile. "Have you prayed for help today?" The question caught her off guard. Had she? She could barely remember. The last few days had been a blur of despair and exhaustion. But now that he was asking, yes, she had. That very morning, before leaving the house, she had knelt on the cold floor of the tiny bathroom and whispered between sobs, "God, I can't take it anymore. Please, help me. Send someone, anything." I prayed, she admitted, her voice almost a whisper. "That's right," Marcus said, and smiled again. "He listens. He always listens. Sometimes it takes a while, but he listens." Before Sarah could answer, Marcus went back to the counter, grabbed his gray wool hat, and got ready to go out in the rain. "You're going to be okay," he said, looking at her one last time. "Have faith." And then he walked out the door, disappearing into the cold, wet Portland night. Sarah sat there, alone again at the small corner table, but feeling completely different. It was as if something had shifted in the air. As if, for a moment, God had torn the veil from the ordinary world and shown that he was there. All the time, even when it seemed he had vanished. She paid with the coins left on the table, left the restaurant, and began walking back home in the light rain. She had no umbrella, she had no thick coat, but she had something she didn't have when she entered the Maple Street diner. Hope, small, fragile, but there. 3 days passed. Sarah got a temporary job at a coffee shop near the center. It wasn't what she wanted, it paid poorly, but it was something. She started at 5 in the morning making coffee and preparing sandwiches for the people who came to work. It was tiring, but at least she could bring home the leftover bread and pastries at the end of the day. Emma was happy. For her, it was like Christmas every day. But Sarah couldn't stop thinking about that man. Marcus. She didn't even know his name properly, but his face was etched in her memory. She wanted to find him, return the money, thank him properly. Maybe even more than that. She wanted to understand. How could he, someone who clearly had so little, have given everything he had for a complete stranger? On Sunday morning, Sarah took Emma by the hand and went to the Maple Street diner. She thought Marcus might frequent the place. Brenda was there, serving coffee as usual. "Excuse me," Sarah said, approaching the counter. "Do you remember me? I was here Thursday night and there was a man. A black man with a gray beanie. He helped me pay the bill." "Ah, Marcus," Brenda said, filling a coffee cup. "Of course I remember. And I remember you too. Is everything settled?" "Yes, I got a job," Sarah said, feeling a small but genuine sense of pride. "I wanted to find him, to thank him properly." "Do you know where he is?" Brenda sighed. "Honey, Marcus doesn't have a fixed address. He's homeless. He sleeps at the shelter on Harrison Street sometimes when there's space, or under the bridge on 3rd Avenue when there isn't." Sarah felt her heart clench. She knew he didn't have much indeed, but she never imagined he literally had nothing. "But he comes by almost every week," Brenda continued. "Usually on Thursday or Friday night. He sits at the counter, orders a coffee, and keeps it going. I let him. He's a good guy." Sarah thanked her and left with Emma. But she returned the following Thursday, and the Friday, and the Tuesday after that. Sometimes she took Emma. Sometimes she went alone after work. She ordered a coffee, sat down, and waited. Brenda began to recognize her, even giving a knowing smile. It was on a Friday night, almost 3 weeks after that first night, that Sarah finally saw him. Marcus entered the restaurant, wearing the same gray beanie and the same worn-out coat, and sat down at the bar stool as usual. Sarah's heart beat faster. She stood up from the table and went over to him. "Marcus," she said, her voice somewhat uncertain. He turned and looked at her. For a second, he seemed not to recognize her, then his eyes lit up. "Ah, the girl from the other day. How are you?" "Well," Sarah said, and smiled. "I'm fine. Because of you." Marcus shook his head. "It wasn't my fault, it was God's." "So God used you," Sarah said, handing him an envelope. "I know you said you didn't need it, but I want to give it back to you. I got a job. It's not much, but this is yours." Marcus picked up the envelope and opened it. Inside were $15. He looked at her, surprised. "I know it's not exactly what you gave me, but it's what I managed to put together," Sarah explained quickly. "I promise I'll give you the rest as soon as—" "Sarah," Marcus interrupted gently. She blinked, surprised that he knew her name. She didn't even remember saying it. "No need. Really. But thank you. This will help a lot today." There was something in the way he said, "It will help a lot today," that made Sarah stop. Something in his voice. A weariness that went beyond the physical. "Are you okay?" she asked. Marcus hesitated. He didn't usually talk about it. About how hard it was. About the cold nights. About the hunger. About the way people looked right through him as if he were invisible. But there was something in Sarah's eyes, a genuine empathy, not that false pity he usually saw, that made him want to be honest. "These have been difficult days," he admitted. "The shelter is full. I've been sleeping on a park bench for 3 nights now, and, well, it's November. The nights are getting colder and colder." Sarah felt a tightness in her chest. Here was a man who had given everything he had to help her, and he was sleeping on a park bench. "And do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" she asked. Marcus shrugged. "I'll stop by the shelter. If there's no space, there's an awning on Oak Street that provides good protection from the rain." "No," Sarah said, before she could even think properly. "No, you're not going to sleep on a balcony." Marcus looked at her, confused. Sarah took a deep breath. Was this madness? Probably. But something inside her, that same voice Marcus had heard when he looked at her that first night, was telling her it was the right thing to do. "I have a sofa," she said. "In my apartment. It's not much, but it's warm and dry. You can stay there tonight, if you want." Marcus stared at her for a long moment. You barely know me. I know enough," Sarah said. "You helped me when no one else did, and now I can help you. Let me do it." "Please." Marcus felt his eyes burning. How long had it been since someone had offered him not $1, Not a sandwich, but a safe place to sleep. How long had it been since someone had looked at him and seen a person? Not a problem. All right, he said, his voice hoarse. Thank you. Sarah's apartment was tiny. A small bedroom she shared with Emma, a small living room with an old sofa and a TV that only got 3 channels, a kitchen that was basically a stove and a sink. But to Marcus, after 3 nights sleeping on a cold park bench, it seemed like a palace. Emma was a little shy at first, hiding behind her mother and looking at the strange man with big, curious eyes. But Marcus had a good way with children. He knelt down to her level and smiled. Hi, little one. What's your name? Emma, she said softly. Emma, what a beautiful name. I'm Marcus. Nice to meet you. He extended his hand, and Emma, after looking at her mother for approval, squeezed his hand with her small hand. Sarah made hot tea for everyone, and they chatted in the small room while the rain pattered against the window. Marcus told stories from the army, but the funny versions, the ones that made Emma laugh. He told about his friend who was so afraid of spiders that he once screamed in the middle of a mission because he saw a tarantula, and everyone thought it was an enemy attack. Emma laughed, and Sarah smiled, seeing her daughter happy. It had been a long time since she had seen Emma like this. Relaxed, confident. When Emma went to bed, Sarah brought an old but clean blanket and a pillow for the sofa. Sorry it's not very comfortable, she said. It's perfect, Marcus said, and it was true. Thank you, Sarah. From the bottom of my heart. She nodded and was about to turn to go to her room when Marcus said, Can I ask you a question? Sarah stopped. Of course. Why did you do this? Bring me to your house. You don't know me. I could be, I don't know, dangerous. Sarah thought for a moment. I could ask the same thing. Why did you help me at that restaurant? You didn't know me. And that money was all you had. Marcus smiled. Touché. Look, Sarah said, sitting on the edge of the old armchair. I've spent the last few days thinking about this, about what you did. And I think God put you there that night for a reason, to remind me that I wasn't alone, that even when I thought I'd hit rock bottom, he was still watching over me. She paused. So maybe now it's my turn, to be God's hands for someone. Marcus felt a lump in his throat. You are a special woman, Sarah. No, she said, shaking her head. I'm just trying to do the right thing. Finally, they remained silent for a moment, the only sound being the rain outside. Good night, Marcus, Sarah said finally. Good evening, Sarah, and thank you for everything. That night, Marcus slept better than he had in months, and Sarah, lying in the small room with Emma sleeping beside her, felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. She had done the right thing. And somehow, in the midst of all that chaos, in the midst of all that struggle, God was building something. She didn't know exactly what yet, but it was there. She could feel it. One night turned into 2. 2 nights turned into a week. Marcus continued sleeping on Sarah's couch, but he didn't stay there as a passive guest. He woke up early and made coffee. He discovered Sarah had a dripping tap in the kitchen and fixed it with a piece of electrical tape he found in the cupboard. He played with Emma while Sarah got ready for work. Little by little, without either of them quite realizing it, he became part of that small, broken family. Sarah began to truly learn his story. I knew his full name was Marcus Anthony Cole, that he grew up in Detroit, that he had a younger brother he hadn't seen in 6 years. I learned that he had served in Iraq for 2 years, that he had returned with scars that no one could see but that were there, deep and painful. I learned that he had tried to return to a normal life, but that nightmares wouldn't let him, that he couldn't hold down a job because sometimes a loud noise would make him panic, that little by little he lost everything until he had nothing left. But I have God, Marcus said in one of those nightly conversations after Emma was asleep and they were having tea in the small living room. I always have. Even when I had lost everything, I knew he was there. Sometimes I got angry with him, you know. I asked him why he had let things get so bad, but deep down I knew he hadn't abandoned me. How did you know? Sarah asked. She had grown up going to church, but in recent years, especially after Jason left and everything fell apart. She had drifted away. She had stopped praying. She had begun to think that maybe God didn't care about people like her. Because I was still alive, Marcus said simply. Because even on the worst nights, and when I thought I was going to freeze under that bridge, I woke up the next day. Because always, when I was at my limit, something happened. Someone gave me a plate of food. Someone offered me a blanket. Once, a guy stopped his car in the middle of the street just to give me a new coat. For no reason, he just stopped and gave it to me. He smiled. God works through people, Sarah. It's always been that way. He doesn't send angels with wings descending from heaven. He uses ordinary people with hands and feet to perform his miracles. Sarah felt something stir inside her, something that had been sleeping for a long time. Do you think that God still cares about me? She asked, her voice small. Even after everything, even after I got angry with him, after I stopped going to church, after I thought he had forgotten me. Marcus looked into her eyes, firm yet gentle. Sarah, God never forgets his children. Never. You may turn away from him, but he never turns away from you. He's there, waiting, always waiting. And when you call, when you truly call from the bottom of your heart, he answers. It may not be in the way you expect, it may not be when you want it to be, but he answers. Sarah felt the tears streaming down her face. It was as if something inside her had broken. Not in a bad way, but in the kind of way that breaks so it can be properly fixed. I miss him so much, she whispered. I miss believing, having faith, feeling that I'm not alone. You're not alone, Marcus said. You never were. And now, even less so. It was at that moment that Sarah realized it wasn't a sudden revelation, but something that had been growing slowly over the past few days. She was falling in love with that man. Not with his looks, not with what he had, because he had nothing, but with his heart, with his unwavering faith, with his genuine kindness, with the way he looked at Emma as if she were the most precious thing in the world, with the way he looked at Sarah as if she were strong, capable, valuable, even when she felt none of that. 2 weeks later, Marcus got a job. It was at a building materials warehouse. Manual labor, carrying boxes and organizing stock. It wasn't easy, and the pay was low, but it was a start. The manager, a man named Pete, who was also a veteran, gave Marcus a chance when he saw the military tattoo on his arm. We take care of our own, Pete said, shaking Marcus's hand. Marcus returned to the apartment that night with the greatest happiness Sarah had ever seen in him. Emma jumped into his lap shouting, "Congratulations, Marcus!" And Sarah hugged him tightly, feeling her heart race when she realized he smelled of honest work, of sweat from effort, of a new beginning. I'll rent a place as soon as I get my first payment, Marcus said that night. But Sarah saw the hesitation in his eyes, as if he didn't really want to leave. You don't have to go, Sarah said before thinking it over. And then, more slowly, more confidently, you can stay if you want. Marcus looked at her. Sarah, look, I know it's kind of crazy. We've known each other for, 3 weeks? But, Marcus, I've never felt so safe with someone. Emma adores you. And she took a deep breath. I like you too. A lot. Marcus felt a tightness in his chest. It had been so long since someone had said that to him. So long since someone had looked at him and seen his worth. I like you too, he said, his voice hoarse. More than I thought I could like someone again. But Sarah, I have nothing to offer you. You're a good man, Sarah interrupted. You're hardworking. You have faith. You're kind. You've made me believe again that there are good people in the world. That's all I need. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. And then he did something he hadn't done in years. He let the walls fall. He let someone truly in. He took Sarah's hand and said, "Then I'll stay." And he stayed. 6 months passed. Marcus stayed in his warehouse job and was promoted to supervisor. Sarah got a better position, now as an assistant manager in the cafeteria. They saved money and managed to rent a slightly larger apartment with 2 real bedrooms. Emma received a bicycle for her birthday, her first new bicycle ever. and Marcus taught her to ride without training wheels on a sunny Saturday in the park. But the biggest change wasn't material, it was spiritual. Sarah returned to church. At first it was difficult. She felt judged, ashamed, as if she didn't deserve to be there after being away for so long. But Marcus held her hand and whispered, "You deserve to be here as much as anyone else. God loves you. Remember that." And she remembered. Gradually, her faith grew again. It wasn't perfect. She still had doubts. She still had difficult days. But now, when she prayed, she felt something. A presence. A peace. A certainty that she wasn't alone. Emma had changed too. She was happier, more secure. She had nightmares sometimes about the hard times, but when she woke up screaming, Marcus was there, along with Sarah, telling her that everything was all right, that she was safe, that they were there for her. "Is Marcus my father now?" Emma asked one night, after he had read her a story and said goodnight. Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes. "He is what you want him to be, my love." "I want to," Emma said, determined. "He's the best dad in the world." One Sunday in March, Marcus knelt in the living room of the apartment. Sarah was returning from the kitchen with 2 mugs of coffee when she saw him there, holding an old box in his hands. "Marcus, what?" He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring with a small blue stone. It wasn't expensive. It was what he had managed to buy with the money he had saved for months, hidden from her. "Sarah," he began, his voice trembling. "I know I'm not the richest man in the world. I know I can't give you mansions or luxury cars, but I can give you my heart, my loyalty, my faith, my love, every day of my life, if you let me." He took a deep breath. "You and Emma, you saved me. You gave me a reason to keep going. You showed me that God still had plans for me, and I want to spend the rest of my life repaying that. So," he held the ring in trembling hands. "Sarah Mitchell, will you marry me?" Sarah couldn't speak. Tears streamed freely down her face now. She knelt in front of him, cupped his face in her hands, and said, "Yes, 1,000 times yes." And they kissed right there in the small living room of that humble apartment, while Emma peeked from the bedroom door with a huge smile on her face. The wedding was simple. It was in the same church Sarah had started attending again. Brenda from Maple Street Diner was there, and Pete from the warehouse too. Mrs. Martha, the neighbor who had helped Sarah so many times, was in the front row, crying with emotion. Emma was the flower girl, wearing a simple white dress that Sarah had found at a thrift store and altered herself. When the pastor asked if anyone objected to the marriage, no one said anything. There was only love in that room, and when Marcus and Sarah kissed as husband and wife, everyone applauded, because it was more than a wedding. It was living proof that God works in mysterious ways, that He uses the most unlikely people to perform the most beautiful miracles, that no matter how low you fall, He can always lift you up again. Today, 3 years later, Marcus and Sarah live in a small house on the outskirts of Portland. Emma is 9 years old and loves telling everyone that Marcus is the best dad in the world. They aren't rich. Far from it. But they have something that money can't buy. They have faith. They have love. They have family. And they have the unwavering certainty that God never, ever abandons His children. Even when it seems like He's not looking, even when it seems like you've hit rock bottom, He is there. He always has been. He always will be. And sometimes, He uses a homeless person with a heart of gold to remind you of that. You know, this story reminds us that God never looks at what the world sees. He doesn't choose the richest, the best dressed, or the most accepted by society. He chooses hearts willing to obey, even when it means giving everything they have. Marcus had nothing, but he had faith. And that's exactly what God used to transform 2 broken lives into something beautiful. Sarah thought she had hit rock bottom in that restaurant, but in reality, that was the turning point God had prepared for her. Sometimes, our most difficult moments are just the stage where God will reveal the miracle. Never give up. Never stop believing. Because He is working, even when you can't see it. If this story touched your heart, leave a like below, comment what you thought, and subscribe to the channel to continue hearing stories like this one I'm sharing with you. A big hug, and may God bless your life.